is in terms of like overall records. Here were the bye teams going into week 4 that didn't participate. But let's get into it. This was the top 25, and usually we start now with the top 25 teams that played this week. Again, we'll look at this list once again towards the end of the stream. But let's get into it. For the teams in our top 25 that played for week 4. Oregon hosted Oregon State in the Civil War and won 41-7. At first, I was like, okay, Oregon's back-to-back 7-7, and then it was all Ducks after that. A nice demolition job there at home. Unfortunately, the Beavers are winless here in 2025, and we'll see who gets be their first victim of the year, because it doesn't look like there's going to be very many. But Oregon continues to be undefeated, being one of the top teams. They will have that date in Happy Valley this upcoming weekend against Penn State, who had a bye. Texas is the next team up. They hosted Sam Houston State. They beat the Bearcats and shut them out 55-0. And actually, that's the only shutout here in the top 25 section. There was an interesting highlight coming out from this past weekend of Arch Manning running over one of the Bearcats, again, defenders in the end zone. Kind of stood over him. A lot of people giving criticism there of, again, the young quarterback that has the last name Manning. But a good defensive performance, I think. Shutting out Sam Houston, who really doesn't have much to offer on offense. If I'm not mistaken, they are still without their starting quarterback, who got injured in their second game. No, it looks like Watson was back. Oh, he had a really bad night. 13 for 25 for only 86 yards, so never mind. Regardless, Texas, great night for them. Continue to build off of that unfortunate loss in week 1 against Ohio State. The one we got wrong and we just did our review of, 63-10, Illinois falls in Bloomington. Hoosiers off to an excellent start. We'll see where they land again in the top 25 towards the end of the stream. As we keep moving, we have southeastern Louisiana going down to Baton Rouge to play the Bayou Bengals. And LSU wins 56-10. A decent bounce back week after the Florida game that looked pretty ugly. Kind of was disappointed in that scoreline. That's why I call it a little bit of a bounce back. To get them ready for Ole Miss this upcoming weekend. That is, for us, going to be a top 10 matchup. But they get the win. They continue to be undefeated. Miami hosted Florida for some in-state bragging rights over there at Hard Rock Stadium. The Hurricanes win 26-7. This game was pretty tight throughout. The Hurricanes pulled away there in the fourth quarter. A little bit disappointing in that performance, to be quite honest with you, because we don't think Florida was really good or good whatsoever. They did hold them to 7 points. LSU the week before, I think it was 10 if I'm not mistaken. Might have been at least a 10-point difference from the loss to, again, LSU. But a little surprised that Carson Beck couldn't get the best of the Gators secondary, which might be the better part of that team. Everything else in the front end doesn't look so good. Because, Mark Fletcher getting another 100-yard game. He's a pretty solid back. I would say top 10 in the country in that position. Carson Beck not having, again, the best of night. Only 160 yards passing. A little bit of an eyebrow raise. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, though, for the Hurricanes. In at number 11, we have BYU on the road taking on East Carolina. Not a lot of people would give East Carolina enough credit. They have been pretty solid in the run defense. And that includes North Carolina State that they played earlier this season and came up short against. But the Pirates didn't really allow BYU to finish drives. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a lot of field goals from the Cougars. and why it was kind of a low scoring 34-13. Still a multiple possession win for, again, the Provo Cougs, which is kind of what I'm expecting. Their defense to carry a lot of the weight. I think it's one of the best defenses in the country. I didn't get a chance to go and see how many times East Carolina crossed the 50-yard line, but that's also a trend that BYU sets in not, allowing much of any kind of drives going on. And then on top of that, their secondary is one of the most lethal in the country, as they had a pick six and led in terms of interceptions in 2024. And if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be up there in the rankings again. Tulane headed over to Oxford, Mississippi to play Ole Miss. Another game we did a deep preview and review of, especially earlier in the stream. The Rebels win 45-10. An impressive win over the Green Wave, who have been beaten, I don't want to say good teams, but power conference teams. Duke, Northwestern is on that list. They did struggle against South Alabama, but the Jags are all right for themselves. But again, they win 45-10 in that blowout and shutting out Jake Retzlaff and getting anything really going of substance, of holding, again, the Green Wave to 10 points. Next up, we have Florida State hosting Kent State. Kent State, really bad team, but honestly, some of the best gear in all of college football. This past weekend, they wore a really gnarly helmet. I didn't have a chance to do it for the stream, but it looks like the old Chargers helmet back when they were down in San Diego with the navy blue look. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, it had a white face mask on it. Some of the cleanest stuff. If you are interested in making an NCAA Dynasty mode, I would be rocking Kent State because of the amount of uniforms and variety that they have. But they didn't have much here against Florida State, 66-10, as the Seminoles continue their undefeated streak. They will play, I believe, an undefeated Virginia team this upcoming weekend. And then, actually, no, that's on Friday. The week after that, they'll play Miami in that game. That's going to be a really interesting one. If I'm not mistaken, that's for a canoe trophy as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more again in week 6. Tennessee hosted UAB over in Knoxville. They had a nice bounce back win. Tough loss to Georgia in overtime. They win 56-24 there against the Blaze. I saw a really, really nasty clip of a UAB player stomping on either it was a kicker or punter's foot of the Volunteers. I do not like to see any of that whatsoever. Hopefully we see a harsh suspension for that player and learning a lesson and setting precedent to not allowing things like that to happen whatsoever. That's just, I don't love to see it. And let's keep moving to a game, unfortunately, we got wrong. 34-10, Texas Tech beats Utah on the road. Handles the altitude, handles the Utes offense, and continues to win. We'll see where they lie here in the top 25. Missouri. They played South Carolina at home and won 29-20. Nice back and forth game. South Carolina kept it nice and tight, as Lenore Sellers wasn't too injured to play this game. He had 302 yards passing, which was more than Bo Pupula. Regardless, Mizzou gets the job done. They continue to be undefeated. Another big stat that I saw out of this game was the amount of times Lenore Sellers got sacked. I think it was 5 times, maybe 6. This defensive front for Missouri is legit. And then on top of that, their secondary, pretty lethal as well. Oklahoma hosted Auburn and stole a win there at home, 24-17. We talked a little bit more about that in our, again, review. Justice was not served there for Auburn as they come up short by a possession. But if they had the right calls, they actually would have won there in the difference. Vanderbilt hosted Georgia State, and got some revenge over the Panthers, who beat them last year in Atlanta. The Commodores win by a 70-21 scores. I think the difference there is, what's the math? 51 points. So on the difference, that's a 50 burger. That's some nasty stuff. And Vanderbilt stacking up wins. They still have like a tough stretch of games that they're going to be running into after they play Utah State. They got Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, all in a row. And we'll see if the Commodores can last that crazy run that they'll be coming up against here in no time. Georgia Tech hosted Temple. They won 45-24. Outlasted the Owls. I didn't really get to see much there, but they win again at home and continue to be undefeated. USF, who's still in our top 25, they played South Carolina State and won 63-14. Yeah, not a bad outing. And they'll continue to be in our top 25, as we'll show you guys what that looks like.